Good evening. I'm Carol Olson Day of the New York Times. I am delighted to welcome you to this exciting Times Talks, live here in New York at the Times Center and live around the world on the web. Our guest tonight is one of today's most distinguished actors to appear on the movie screen and on the stage. His film work has been recognized by his industry's highest accolades, Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations, and the BAFTA, Independent Spirit, and New York Film Critics Circle Awards, among many others. And he's no stranger to the theater. He originated roles in 2 of August Wilson's plays at Yale Rep and appeared in New York Shakespeare Festival's productions here in New York City. And he's currently making his Broadway debut as civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. in Katori Hall's The Mountaintop, directed by Kenny Leon and co-starring Angela Bassett. We are honored and fortunate to have him here with us tonight. And you'll hear much more about him from our moderator, who I'm now pleased to introduce. Every Monday, his Media Equation column is must-reading for everyone concerned with how media intersects with business, culture, government, and our everyday lives. Today's column about huge bonuses and salaries in, of all places, certain failing newspaper chains was one of the most popular online and on Twitter. He also writes about film, television, and books for the arts section. He was the first carpetbagger blogger, covering the news, nonsense, and the players that drive the film awards season. Earlier this year, he appeared as a character, his own, in Andrew Rossi's film, Page One, Inside the New York Times. He's also the author of the compelling memoir, The Night of the Gun. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, David Carr, and our very special guest, Samuel L. Jackson.
I always like coming out with a big famous guy like you, and I can pretend like that applause is for me. But then I point toward you, and of course it goes up a great deal in volume, so I'm not confused. As if I wasn't intimidated by this enough, given all the roles you played, now I think of you a little bit as Dr. King. I just saw you last week. You did a pretty good job of...
Thank you.
Oh, some of these folks have seen it. When you were approached about that role in The Mountaintop, did any part of you say, "Oh my gosh, that is"?
You know what? It's a weird kind of funny story actually. I'd been in London maybe a week before Kenny got the offer for the play, and I had tried to see the play, but I was too busy, so I didn't get to see it. And Kenny and I played golf together. So we were coming from the golf course, and he got a call about this Martin Luther King play. And I said, "Is that the play they're doing in London?" And he's like, "I don't know, maybe." And he asked, and they said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, let me read it when you get it." And when he got it, he sent me a copy of it. He emailed me a copy, and I read it, and I called him and said, "So you gonna direct the play or not?" And I don't know. I'm looking at it, And I said, "Well, if you do it, I'll do it." Because I was looking for a new play. I didn't want to do, Kenny had approached me a lot about doing August Wilson. I mean, I'd done some August Wilson plays early in my career, but I didn't really want to do something people kept doing over and over again. I wanted to do something that was different and new. Plus, if I was going to come back to the theater, I definitely wanted to come back in, I guess, some dynamic fashion, so I figured that might be okay. So I chose
It's worked out pretty good. You know, it's
not
weird.
bad.
You know what's weird about this is you guys were on the golf course. Business actually gets done on the golf course.
No. We were on the way home from the golf course.
Okay, all right.
I'd already taken care of the business. I'd taken his money, so we were on the way home.
you can play.
A little bit.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. What's your handicap?
I can't say that in front of all these
Yes,
people.
you can.
3 point something.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe 3.67, something.
I'd do anything to have a handicap like that, except what you did to get it.
I didn't sell my soul.
Yes.
I just used a lot of time.
So when we watch the play, and I'm not going to get into large spoilers, but I'll just talk about a little thing. We're clearly seeing a man, not a myth.
Right.
And that is made manifest by you do an entrance into this hotel room, and you go off screen to do what every man does, which is go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And we hear Dr. King going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So his feet of clay, the fact that he is a man, is established
Just
right
like
out of the
that.
gate.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a guy. And apart from that, you can see he's tired, he's hungry, and he totally wants a cigarette, which I can identify with. And so you're not playing Martin Luther King, you're playing Martin Luther King.
Yeah. Not Dr. King, just
Not
Martin
Dr.
Luther
King.
Yeah.
Well said.
Martin Luther King.
And so you're playing a big man, but you shouldn't play him that large. I mean, technically it's a significant challenge from an acting perspective.
Well, considering we both graduated from the same college, and he's a graduate of Morehouse College, so am I.
You were an usher at his funeral.
Yes, that was totally, an accident of time. Just because I was a student there were a lot of strangers coming onto the campus for the funeral, which was held in the middle of the campus. And they needed student volunteers to guide people to different places they needed to be and get them in seats. So I volunteered and I became an usher at the funeral, which is kind of, a lot of students did that. It was just something that we all did to kick in. More interesting than that was the day after he was assassinated, I actually got on a plane and went to Memphis and marched in the sanitation workers' strike, which was kind of a fortunate incident because Bill Cosby and Robert Culp rented a plane and they took all these students and we just got on the plane and went. In fact, that's where I actually ran into my wife visually for the first time to say, oh, I know who that girl is. But we didn't connect there, though. But
You were just kind of setting the trap.
yeah, we were scouting each other out.
Okay.
We didn't see each other. But yes, I actually ended up being an usher. But because we went to the same school, we had the same professors, I know that Southern Baptist cadence, who those preachers are. I understand the sedittiness that Kamei keeps referring to. I think that's like a black word that, yeah. Do white people say sedity? Yeah.
We can't even say that
It's
word.
like, well, it's sort of, well, it's one of those words that we grow up with that reference people who talk proper and think they're better and have strange manners. But when you go to Morehouse, you're sort of taught that you're going to be better than the average black person that's on the planet. It's one of those, the first assembly you have, they're gonna look to your left, you look to your right, that person won't be here next year. Oh, wow, what the fuck, what? What's gonna happen? And sure enough.
You got expelled.
Yeah, well, yes, I was one of those people that wasn't there. But it took them 3 years to get me.
Right.
Yeah. And only because I locked the trustees in a building and had Dr. King's father and some other people locked in a building.
Other than that, you were a perfect
Other than
student.
that, I was a perfect student. But I understand who those people are. So when I attacked Dr. King in that particular way, especially in this play, I was not dealing with the icon, the person who made those speeches, the person who led those marches. I was just dealing with one of those guys who happened to be a Morehouse graduate who became a famous preacher of sorts, and I dealt with him in that way. Because I remember telling Kenny after I'd learned the lines, because it's the first play I'd done in 15 years. So when I got back and we started rehearsal, I sort of knew the script in like 3 days, because I have this facility for learning lines, which I can't explain. But I knew the play, but then all of a sudden I had to relearn the lines in his voice.
Right.
So I spent a lot of time at home going through those preacher cadences and extending words in a sedity sort of way, which helped me get to who the character is in that way. So having that kind of information has led me to the character that people see when they see him on stage now.
I think our guys were able to hustle a clip of the mountaintop, so maybe we can see a little bit of what we're talking about. Is that true? We have a clip, don't we? We'll look like a jerk if we don't. See, magic.
So wow. Many white folk haters can't make bombing folks' houses, shooting folk, blowing up children.
Make you scared to bring a Negro child into this world the way they be blowing them up.
Yes, they hate so easily, and we love too much.
Last time, I heard you was preaching everybody the same. Negro folk, white folk, we all alike.
Well, at the most human level, we are all the same.
Well, one thing we all got in common.
We scared, Cammy. We all scared. We're scared of each other, scared of ourselves. They just scared. Scared of losing something they've known their whole lives. Fear makes us human. We all want the same things. Smile, a hug.
Smoke.
Which I could use more of.
Two things I notice about that scene, two things anyone would go to your play, The Mountaintop, would think. One is Angela Bassett doesn't change. The rest of us get older.
Yeah.
She is, you know, she obviously does a wonderful job, but she is a remarkable looking person.
Yeah.
And just does not change. I mean, she, the other thing is you said you came off a 15-year layoff. Looks like you got the hang of it.
I didn't realize until we started doing previews how much I'd actually missed doing theater. I love doing movies. It's like one of my favorite places to be is on a movie set. But I also like the immediate feedback that an audience gives. You know, you give them something, they give you something back. They sigh, they laugh, they sob with you. You can hear them rustling. You can feel the energy. It's just something you don't feel on a movie set. I mean, I've had it a couple times when you do some things. There have been some soliloquies that I've done when I was doing a movie, like when we did Pulp Fiction, when we shot the diner scene, which happened to be like the first thing we shot in the movie. So when I did that last speech in the diner scene, it's like the whole set was quiet and the crew was paying attention. So when it finished, it was very odd. I think that happened on A Time to Kill when I did my first speech in A Time to Kill, which is not actually in the movie. That happened. So it doesn't
It's hard
happen
to get
lot.
a clap out of a Hollywood crew. I mean, really.
Yeah, for sure. You know, they're always, you know, they're off at craft service or thinking about that next light thing they got to do. But,
or if you miss a line, they're freaking out because they got to wait 10 more minutes to eat a sandwich.
No,
right?
not really. Not really. It's all up to theater is a relationship between us and the people sitting there watching the play.
Yes.
A movie is a relationship between a director and all the stuff he has to go into the editing room to put together. So you have to learn how to monitor yourself when you're working in that milieu, because directors, old school, all the old time directors always told me, you never shoot any more than you need, because when the producers and the studio get mad at you, then they can take all your footage and make any movie they want.
Right.
So they only shoot what they want. Young directors or unsure directors tend to say, well, I want to try it this way now, because when I go to the editing room, I want this. And you know, if you reach a certain amount of power in yourself, you know, you go, well, you know, I already figured out what I was going to do from point A to point Z in this movie. So what you're asking me to do is like A2 or A or ZX. And that doesn't have anything to do with what I want to do that connects this to this to this to this to this to this. And because you like that so much, you're going to go to the editing room, and that's the first thing you're going to look at. No, Sam, I'd never. Yes, it is. Because if you didn't like it, you wouldn't be asking me for it. So let's not do that. And you just go ahead to the editing room with what I give you and see how that works out for you. But everybody can't do that.
Do you think that leverage comes from your personal charisma, or the fact that according to the Guinness Book of Records, you're the top grossing actor of all time?
That has, you know, the gross.
You got a little juice, let's face it.
Not really. The gross record, I mean, that's like an erroneous kind of, you know, thing. It's just some Guinness stuff. Because, I mean, I've done like 8 really, really big movies that made all that money. I mean, just, all you got to say is Star Wars. And, you know, Harrison was the leader because he'd done Star Wars and all the Star Wars movies. So when I was doing episode 1, George told me, I think by the time this movie's over, you're gonna pass Harrison, because I'd done Jurassic Park and some other stuff. And I said, well, I'm probably gonna pass him before this movie comes out, because I did this other little movie that I think is gonna make some money called The Incredibles.
It did okay.
It did all right. All right. But I think it did so well that they're kind of afraid to make another one because they don't know if they can make one as good as the first one, which is kind of disheartening.
I think they're right to worry, because that movie was almost perfect.
Yeah, it was great. But that's an erroneous kind of record, because I got Star Wars, I got Jurassic Park, I got, you know, Incredibles, I got all these Marvel movies now, which continue to make that number larger and larger and larger and larger, unless they keep making Pirates movies and all those vampire movies. Those kids may catch me.
8 or 9 picture deal with Marvel. I mean,
9, yeah. Not
bad.
Yeah.
And you know, the Star Wars thing, I think you're underestimating your contribution. You did have a purple lightsaber.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Well, I asked for it. George and I became close enough that I could actually ask him that, and he did it. It was kind of funny.
Apropos of your discussion earlier about your conversation with directors, I'm not surprised that you ended up with it.
Well, I didn't put it to George that way, because I know, you know, George is the star of Star Wars movies. You know, it's about George Lucas. So I just happened to, this was one of the few times in episode 2, they actually sent me a script. Because when I did episode 1, I had no idea who I was or what I was doing. Because I just happened to do a British talk show, and this guy asked me if there were any directors I'd never worked with that I wanted to work with. And I realized George was about to start Star Wars. So I said, I'd love to work with George Lucas. And somebody that worked for him told him, because they were doing pre-production in London. And I left there and I went to San Francisco, and I was doing Sphere out in the Napa Valley somewhere. And I got a call, and they said, George wants to meet with you if you're really serious about being in Star Wars. I was like, great. So he sent a car, I went over to the ranch, and I met with him, and, you know, he was like, you know, I've seen a couple things you're in, but I don't really, you know, no. I'm like, well, you don't have to know, it's okay, you know, I just want to be in the movie. And he's like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, look, I'll be a stormtrooper. I just want to run across the screen. Nobody needs to know I'm in this movie but me, you know? I will run across the screen with a white helmet on, and I would have been happy, because I just wanted to be in a Star Wars movie.
You were a Jedi Knight, though.
No, I had no idea until they called. I left there. George says, well, you know, they got a couple things. I got some palace guard stuff. You know, maybe we'll find something. And I was like, okay, great. So I went off, and it was like 3 months later. I was done with Sphere, and I was ready to do something else. And I got a call that said, George wants you to come to London. Can you come to London now? I was like, sure. Get on a plane. I go to London. I get to the studio. They take me to this dressing room. And mind you, I still haven't seen a script.
Right.
I haven't seen anything.
But you already were willing to do. Here's the thing.
I didn't care.
You collect like little figurines, right?
Yeah.
So was that what you were angling for? I want to be a Star Wars figurine?
I just wanted to be in StarArs. Okay. You don't understand. When I sat there and saw that movie for the first time, I was sitting there saying to myself, how in the hell do you get in something like this?
Right.
You know, what do you have to do? And then, you know, another movie like Die Hard, my friend Reginald Vell is that cop that's outside eating donuts all home. I'm going, how did Reggie get that job? You know? So there are certain things that you watch that you just want to do. So when I got there and I was in my dressing room, or what they said was my dressing room, they go, well, somebody will be up here to help you put on your costume in a minute. You're having a fitting. And I was like, cool. So I was like, I wonder whose dressing room this is, because I see some boots and I see, wow, that looks like a Jedi robe. That must be in somebody's room. And then somebody came in and gave me these 3 pages. And they go, these are your lines. And I went, Mace Windu. What the hell is that? You know? And it's just Mace Windu, Yoda. Mace Windu, Yoda. Mace Windu, Yoda. I know I'm not Yoda. I must be Mace Windu. Still didn't know who this guy was. And then they came in and, you know, I put on some boots and they started putting the stuff on me. I'm like, so I'm a Jedi? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, wow. And I'm having a conversation with Yoda. So I guess I won't be edited out of the movie. So I won't be just running across screen. And then the guy came in with the Halliburton and he's like, pick your lightsaber handle. And I'm like, oh, you know, so now I'm just, you know, I can't even tell you what I really did. I really just went like, And I was like, oh my God. So that one. So that's when I knew I was a Jedi. And it was
didn't you think there'd be a little ceremony where you'd be knighted as a Jedi? I didn't care
what was going to happen at that point. All I knew was I was a Jedi. I had my lightsaber. They told me to go in this room. I met Frank Oz and all these guys because Yoda was still a puppet then.
Right.
So I had to rehearse with these guys for like hours and hours while they did ears and eyes and Yoda stuff. And I was very cool with all that. But I made up my mind then. I was like, okay, so I just got to be cool and not give George any grief. Be quiet, stay out of the way, and see how long I hang around. Don't let him kill me. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. And that's what I did. Because in the first movie, I sat in the chair and I was, you know, everybody was having lightsaber battles. I wanted to like, I was like, let it go, let it go.
Cool.
Let it go.
I'm fine.
He'll get to you. And I made it through the first one. So the second one, they actually sent me a script. And I'm reading it and I see, oh wow, there's a huge, huge battle scene in this arena. And I'm in it. But it's like, we've called Jedis from all over the galaxy to fight in this arena. And I'm like, how in the hell am I gonna find myself in all this big old fight? George, you think I could have like a purple lightsaber? And he's like, no, Sam, they're either red or they're green. I'm like, but I'm the second baddest Jedi in the universe, and I've been around for a while, you know.
And purple's kind of in the middle.
Purple could be like kind of dope. And he's let me think about it. I didn't bother. Yeah. I go away. We shoot the movie in Australia. Then we do reshoots in London. He says, oh, I got something to show you. And he pulls it up, and sure enough, purple lightsaber. I'm like, oh. But George is still, in that space where it's like, I don't know if I'm gonna let you keep that though, because somehow it got leaked on the net and it's causing this big shitstorm. And I'm like, really? I wonder who leaked that. And eventually I got to keep it. I just really, it was only because it was vanity. I was trying to find myself in that big old fight in the middle of the arena. It works.
It totally works.
Totally works. I know where I am in that big old fight. But, George is great like that. George like me, I like George, and it all worked out. And he finally told me, he said, well, you're gonna die in episode 3. I'm like, why? He says, well, I've already done episode 4, 5, and 6, and you're not in them. And you're the only significant character that I can kill that will make a difference, that moves the story along. I wasn't too happy about it. I was like, well, can I just get my hand cut off and fall out the window and not really be dead? It's like, well, that would mean you'd have to wait till episode 7 to come back to be able to be something, but I'm okay with that. I had my moment. It was great.
The Lucas giveth and the Lucas take away.
Yeah, but it's the...
You had a good run.
It's like the gift that keeps on giving. They just re-released all that stuff on Blu-ray and stuff, so I got another check. I'm good.
Plus lightsaber's still purple.
Lightsabers, yeah. They actually sent me one of those really great collector's item lightsabers as an opening night gift, the purple one, yeah.
I want to get back to this other fight for truth and justice.
Which one?
The real one, civil rights.
Oh.
And just talk about the fact that, you know, Kamei in the movie is really, in the play, is really challenging Dr. King. You know, marching is just walking. And at the time, as I was watching, I stayed in the play mostly, but I thought, you know, you had your own sort of issues and approaches during the civil rights era. I mean, you were a fairly radical person.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say, right?
Yes.
Became involved in the Black Power movement.
Yes. I lived in the SNCC office for a while. That's the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
And you're good.
But they weren't really nonviolent.
Yeah, and neither were you, right?
Right. And then I lived at Rap Brown House for a while. So I
less
was,
nonviolent.
Not so much.
Okay.
Not so much. It's like one of my favorite statements from the 60s. I used to have this T-shirt that I wore that said, "At a certain point, caution becomes cowardice. No slave should die a natural death." So that was pretty much how I was taking myself. And I did have that attitude that at some point there was going to be an armed struggle in America. And I did think there was going to be an armed struggle between people of color and the power structure, or the white people that ran the country, because, you know, there were a lot of things that happened that were very interesting. I mean, now, I don't know how or why the apathy set in, but everybody, you know, people had it good for a very long time. And because we have an all-volunteer army now, unlike when I was a young man, you know, you got drafted. And I had a very high draft number. I was like number 19 or something. So when they kicked me out of school, the first thing they tried to do was send me to the war. And I resisted and sent letters from all parts of the country saying I was living here, I was living there, whatever. But things happen. And the way the government or the powers that be broke all that was, well, the 60s was an age of drugs. You may know something about that. So everybody I knew got high. Because if you didn't, then that meant you were a narc or a cop or something. So
you just did them sort of defensively, so people wouldn't.
No, I did them recreationally. Shit, I had a great time. But what happened was when the movements got big enough, or the anti-war protests got big enough, somehow, some way, all the marijuana left the country. And all of a sudden, there was all this heroin in the country. So everybody that was active in all this was now kind of like that, you know, sleep. And they destroyed a movement by importing a drug that would kill everybody. The same way they put crack in the, you know, communities. The same way, you know, all that happens. You disarm a people by putting them to sleep or distracting them in a certain kind of way. That may all sound like government conspiracy shit to y'all, but, you know. But, so that's kind of what happened, and
well, it didn't just sidetrack a movement, though. It sidetracked you a little bit.
Well, I didn't get sidetracked at all.
Okay.
I kept going. I had a path. I knew what my path was. My path was to become what I am right now. Now, I lost sight of it in an interesting sort of way, or I went about it in a wayward path. Right. But fortunately for me, all the getting high, the drinking, the drugs, and everything else I did, I showed up at the theater every day. Right. I did plays ripped out of my mind. I rehearsed ripped out of my mind. But every lesson that I learned, I held on to for some reason. God, whatever, somebody let me hold on to everything that I was learning. My stage lefts, my stage rights, my upstage foot always out, turned down this way, learning how to develop a character, doing all those things, because those are the things that I love. And I did them in the midst of everything else that I was doing. To, you know, when my friends were getting ready to go get some more drugs, I go, oh, no, I got to be at the theater. And I'll catch y'all in the theaters, oh, you know, when I'm done. And I jet. Or I got to go build a set. I got to do this. So I did everything that I had to do. So I was focused on this by any means necessary. Plus, I had a professor who was like, you know, Well, you know, all the great ones do their jobs and get ripped out of their minds. You know, you look at the Peter O'Toole's and the you know, so they get drunk and they get high. They do what they do, but they show up and they do their job. So we were like, okay. And that's what we did. You know, we drank with him and we went to Styles of acting class. We'd go smoke a joint and come in and do our other acting classes, or go build a set, or build some costumes, or hang some lights, and do all the things that we had to do. So I kept learning my lessons and doing them. And even at the lowest point of my addiction, when I was a Broadway understudy and I was smoking crack on the back steps because I was feeling sorry for myself because I'd done a piano lesson at Yale and originated a role that now Charles Dutton was doing on Broadway because the part was written for him. He just happened to be doing Crocodile Dundee 2 when they did it at Yale, so I got to do it. But you know, naturally, I thought I did it better, and then all of a sudden the play wins a Pulitzer Prize. He gets nominated for a Tony, and I'm sitting on the back of the steps like, fuck this, man. It should have been me. I'm blowing my brains out, and next thing I know, I'm in rehab. But in the midst of all those things, I held on to what I needed to hold on to, and everything happens when it's supposed to happen. You know, you can't push it. I know the desperateness of people. I see desperation sometimes when I talk to kids about how can I get to be where you are? Or what do I need to do? Or you see actors who haven't worked for a while. There's something, somebody told me a long time ago that when you go to auditions, people look at the actors that come in, they look at the resumes and they go, there's something right about an actor who works. And there's something wrong about an actor who hadn't worked. People want to hire actors that other people have hired. So you continue to go to work. It's like I used to tell my wife, she used to always say, why are you doing that little piddling ass job? You know, you got a day on a movie, a day here. So every job leads to your next job. Some of those people that are working on this movie are going to be working on a bigger movie later on. Some of these people that are, you know, the kid that I was very nice to, that was a PA, is now fucking running the studio.
Right.
You know, and that was, you know, you have to remember things. It's in the midst of, like I said, in the midst of all that drug cloud and everything else, there's certain things you see, like you see things on a wall. I remember walking into the Die Hard office and seeing on a wall, said, be careful of the toes you step on today, for they may be connected to the ass you'll kiss tomorrow. You know? So you have to remember little shit like that. And sure enough, you know, they're PAs that, you know, got walked on by people that are now running studios, and they don't give people jobs because they remember when that actor was like very shitty to them. So I always try to treat everybody the way I want to be treated. I know all the crew members. I speak to, you know, the lowest crew member to the director. There are actors, people talk about actors that, you know, don't let you look at them when they walk on set. It's like, what kind of stupidity is that? You know, don't talk to the actors. Or extras will say, they told us not to talk to you. I said, well, so why are you talking to me? You know, well, you look like you were okay. Well, I am. You can talk to me. It's all right. You know, I'm not going to get you fired. You know, what's your name? Hey, I see him on set. I call him by name. You know, other extras. But everybody's there to do a job. It's a very collaborative effort. And you learn that from theater. Everybody has a job. And if that person's not doing his job, then your job's going to look bad. Especially in a movie. You don't know the guys that put the lights up. You don't speak to them, you're gonna be standing in the fucking dark. You know? You don't know the guy that pulls focus, you're gonna be soft. You know, they may fire him for making you soft, but you should know all these people because everybody is a part of that whole. But like I say, you learn these kinds of things. I didn't need to be famous or very successful until I got sober. Because I would have abused the privilege. And you see people abusing the privilege all the time. We read about them in the papers. You know, they don't go to their community service. You know, they don't do a lot of stuff. You know, and some of them keep working, some of them don't. Some people, you know, you get straight and great things happen. You know, like Downey was a famous actor for a long time, and he got so much better, and so many things are happening for him now that he's sober. It's like, maybe it finally, you know, it clicks in you at some point. For me, I had a very palpable and real kind of revelation that nothing good happened, nothing successful happened. I had a lot of good things happen. Nothing successful happened until I got sober because I was ready to deal with what was going to come with that. And amazingly enough, I ended up playing who I was to become who I am. I ended up doing Gator. I'd done all the research for that crackhead, and I did it. And I made it a very real and honest kind of portrayal, not, you know, it was funny because that was the summer of dueling crackheads. It was like me and Jungle Fever and Chris Rock in New Jack City, yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, well, and I enjoyed watching Chris do what he did, but I did what I did because I knew what I was, and I knew how that worked when you manipulate people and you use them to your advantage the way Gator did, so that when people saw that particular characterization, you know, I had mothers say that was my son, sisters say that was my brother, brothers say that was my brother, sisters, that was my cousin, that was somebody. Everybody had somebody in their house that had done what Gator did, that had come by and gotten some money from them or used them in a specific kind of way, and it touched people in a very real kind of way, which is great. And that was what I always wanted to do. After watching specific actors do things, you always want to have a profound effect on people when they leave a theater. You know, so it's always cool for me to have people quote lines from my movies when they see me or they yell things at me, and you know, because there's some actors go through their whole career, nobody can quote not one line they ever did in the movie. You know, people go, "Don't you get tired of that?" No. I get tired of like not being recognized, you know. I still have days where I'm silly enough or vain enough that, you know, I leave home and I take the train.
Just to go out and be Samuel L. Jackson.
Just to see how many people recognize me.
I'm still me.
But it's always cool though, because people don't like lose their minds because it's like, it's just me. It's not like three big dudes standing around me like, you know, it's just me. I'm on the train, I might have a book, I might not have a book, and I'm just there. And people go, "You know, you look like."
You name check Die Hard, and I want to run a clip from Die Hard with a Vengeance, and just talk to you about it a little bit.
Okay.
I'm guessing there are going to be a lot of things blowing up or not blowing up in this. Let's see.
Was that an action movie?
Yeah.
Now, John, there's a significant amount of explosive in the trash receptacle next to you. Try to run, and it goes up now.
Nobody's gonna run, but I got 100 people out here.
That's the point. Now, do I have your attention? As I was going to St. Ives, I met a man with 7 wives. Every wife had 7 sacks. Every sack has 7 cats. Every cat has 7 kittens. Kittens, cats, sacks, and wives. How many were going to St. Ives? My phone number is 555.
No, wait, I didn't get all that. Say it again.
Not a chance. My phone number is 555 and the answer. Call me in 30 seconds or die.
All right, 7 guys and 7 wives.
Shut up, McLean. I'm good at this.
7 guys and 7 wives.
Shut the fuck up, McLean. He said 7 wives and 7 sacks. 7 times 7 is 49. Now tell me the rest.
Oh, your sack with 7
Weren't
stacks.
you listening?
7, yeah, I was just trying to hear
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, besides having a bad fucking hangover for one thing.
All right. 7 wives times 7, 49 with 7 cats. 7 times 49 is 343, right?
Well, you asking me and telling me.
I'm telling you. 343 times 7 is 24. 2,401. What you got, right?
Yeah, that's what I... Is that it? 401?
Dial 555-2401. No, wait. It's a trick. It's a trick.
What do you mean?
I forgot about the man.
What, man? Fuck the man. We got 10 seconds.
He said how many were going to St. Ives, right? The riddle begins as I was going to St. Ives. I met a man with 7 wives. The guy and his wives aren't going anywhere.
What are they doing?
Sitting in the fucking road, waiting on the moon. How the hell should I know?
Who's going to St. Ives then?
The guy. Just the guy.
Just one guy?
The answer's one.
One guy. How do you dial 1?
555-0001.
001. Just one guy's going.
Hello, John.
Yeah, piece of cake. Give us something harder next time.
But you're 10 seconds late.
No, the answer is 1. There's a bomb in the trash. New York.
There was some bogeys in that crowd. Somebody actually gave me some money. People threw dollars down on the ground. I kept them.
You made 3 movies with him, 4 if you count National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon. What's up with you and Bruce Willis? You like working with him? What's he good at?
Bruce is good at making movies. I mean, that was a time when Bruce was Bruce Willis, you know. And it's funny because I was doing Kiss of Death with Nick Cage, and I had auditioned for Waterworld, and I was waiting on word from Waterworld as to whether I was going to be in. And well, I was thinking about going to Hawaii playing golf for 6 months.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So one day they came by the set and said, "Well, Lawrence Fishburne got Waterworld." It's like, oh damn. But he was supposed to do Die Hard. You want to do that? I was like, can I get a bigger room in the hotel? And they were like, sure. So that's how I ended up doing Die Hard, which worked out well for me because I was already in New York. I liked staying here, so it was a big shoot all over the city. But Bruce was a great guy. Bruce was coming off a time, you know, when everybody, you know, said Bruce was one of those actors that gave people grief.
Right.
I guess after, what was that, Ship of Fools, or what was that movie? What was that movie with all those people that was really bad that everybody hated? Dunces, something with Dunces.
If it's not on my iPad, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, whatever. But he was making an effort to become a better person to work with on set. So
imitate a human
It was in the
being
middle of
when he was
summer,
working.
so you know we'd have days where like 200 milkshakes would show up, or he'd just send a big ice cream truck there, and people would just get ice cream. And when we left here and went to Charleston to finish the movie, every Friday when we got off, he would just buy a club and open it for the cast and crew, and he'd spin records himself or have his band come and he would play. And you know, we became great friends during that. And then when I was doing, when I just finished Rules of Engagement, and my wife came to...
You're not going to clap for Rules of Engagement?
Nah, I don't know. But my wife came to Marrakesh to hang out with me because we were shooting in Ouarzazate, which is like the navel of Morocco. And you have to go over the Atlas Mountains into Marrakesh. So I went over there to meet her for a week, and I was in the casino. And I kept looking at this guy, saying, geez, that guy looks like Bruce, but he's bald. And then I heard him talk, and I was like, Bruce? And he's like, Sam, that's you? I thought that was you. I thought it was a guy with a hat on trying to be like Sam Jackson. Look at that. And we ended up playing blackjack. We were sitting there playing blackjack together. He said, I just talked to this guy. He's writing a movie for us. And I'm like, yeah, right. He said, no, seriously. And he dials his number, and he gets this guy on the phone, and he goes, guess who I'm here with? I'm with Sam Jackson. Talk to him. And he gives me the phone, and the guy goes, ow, wow, this is crazy. I'm writing your scene right now. And I'm like, who is this? And he's like, my name's Knight. And I was like, Knight? For real? Oh, the guy who wrote that Ghost movie that Bruce was in. He's like, yeah, I'm writing a movie for you and Bruce right now. And I'm writing one of your scenes. And it turned out to be Unbreakable.
Unbreakable.
Yeah, and it was great. And so we ended up together again, which is, I think Unbreakable is like a fantastic film.
Is it true that you have a clause in your contract about being able to go play golf?
Twice a week.
So you've been hooked on crack, and now you're hooked on golf. Which is the worst, would you say?
Golf's not so bad on your health.
Right, but it's almost as expensive.
No.
No.
No, I didn't have sponsors when I was doing crack. I get free shoes, free golf clubs, free golf balls. I wasn't getting nothing free when I was smoking crack. There were no perks.
There wasn't a Samuel Jackson discount?
Well, occasionally I would be in a crack house with a whole bunch of people, you know, or in a place where I was the only person who spoke English, and somebody would go, do the right thing, right? I go, yeah, here you go. That was about the extent of it, though. A lot of people with machetes and guns and me.
I'm worried that I'm going to crash into the audience question time without getting through these clips. So I wish I would have picked the Ezekiel scene, you know, the speech from Pulp Fiction.
Not my favorite.
It's not.
No.
I went with you and John Travolta in the car talking about the Royale. It's just something about that stuck with me.
Yeah.
I think that's the clip we got. Can we show? I mean, one of the greatest movies of all time. And
Say What Again is the best section of that movie, but that's, you know.
Thanks for letting everybody know. Do we have a Pulp Fiction clip?
Okay, so tell me again about the hash bar.
Okay, what you want to know?
Hash is legal there, right?
Yeah, it's legal, but it ain't 100% legal. I mean, you just can't walk into a restaurant, roll the joint, and start puffing away. I mean, they want you to smoke in your home or certain designated places.
And those are hash bars.
Yeah, it breaks down like this, okay. It's legal to buy it, it's legal to own it, and if you're the proprietor of a hash bar, it's legal to sell it. It's legal to carry it, but that doesn't matter, because get a load of this, all right? If you get stopped by a cop in Amsterdam, it's illegal for them to search you. I mean, that's the right that cops in Amsterdam don't have.
Oh, man, I'm going. That's all there is to it. I'm fucking going.
No, baby, you think it the most. But you know what the funniest thing about Europe is?
What?
It's the little differences. I mean, they got the same shit over there that they got here, but it's just there, it's a little different.
Example?
All right, well, you can walk into a movie theater in Amsterdam and buy a beer. And I don't mean just like a little paper cup, I'm talking about a glass of beer. And in Paris, you can buy a beer in McDonald's. And you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?
They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese?
Oh, man, they got the metric system. They wouldn't know what the fuck a quarter pounder is.
And what do they call it?
They call it Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
That's right.
What do they call a Big Mac?
Well, Big Mac's a Big Mac, but they call it Le Big Mac.
Le Big Mac. What do they call a Whopper?
I don't know. I didn't go on a Burger King. You know what they put on French fries in Holland instead of ketchup?
What?
Mayonnaise. I seen them do it, man. They fucking drown them in that shit.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about that hair for a moment. Both of you got some remarkable hair going in that scene.
Yeah.
This part was written for you, yes?
So I was told it was a struggle after, you know, I was told that, but it's one of those kind of things. Another point of a lesson well learned about Hollywood or just about life in general. Yeah, Quentin, when I auditioned for Reservoir Dogs and didn't get a part, I ran into him at Sundance when they screened it for the first time, and he was like, "So how'd you like the guy who got your part?" I was like, "Would have been a better movie with me in it, but whatever." He says, "Don't worry, I'm writing something for you." And I was like, "Really? You remember me?" Yeah. So I go off, I'm doing this movie, and I get this script. I read it. It's Pulp Fiction. It's great. And one day, while I'm home in LA, they called me and said, "Would you just come in and let's just read through the script so we can see how it sounds?" I'm like, "Cool." So I went in, we read through it, it was all good. I come here and I'm shooting Fresh, and Lawrence Bender, who's one of the producers of Fresh, is also a producer on Pulp Fiction. And I get a call saying, "Well, you know, there's this guy who came in and we were reading him for another part, but he wanted to read Jules because there wasn't enough stuff for the other part, and we let him read it, but we really like him." I'm like, "But I thought you wrote the part for me." Said, "Well, we did, but we really like this guy." So I said, "So what's that mean? I got to audition now?" I said, "Well, if you wouldn't mind coming in and reading." So I'm like,
for a part they wrote for you.
Yeah. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, right."
So
I'm here in New York. I got to fly to LA, but I got to work till Friday. The audition's I got to work till Saturday. And the audition's Sunday, so I got to take the red eye to LA. So I'm taking the red eye, I'm on the plane, I got the Pulp Fiction script, I'm like scribbling in the margins, I'm trying to do all this stuff that I would normally do when I'm sitting at home by myself, working out what I need to do and what I need to do, what I need to do. So I'm getting it done, I stay up all night, I get there the next morning. When I get there, nobody's there. The other guys already been in, and they've gone to lunch, and then when they come back, everybody's like, hey, and they're introducing this one guy to me that I don't even know, who's another producer, and he goes, "Oh, you don't need to introduce me to this man. I love your work, Mr. Fishburne." And I was like, so now I'm like really pissed. So I'm like, okay, this motherfucker doesn't know who I am. And I gotta go in here, and I'm pissed, so I go in, I start reading. They hired a reader. This kid sitting across the table from me, he's reading. I'm blasting through the scene. And dude gets lost, you know? He like to start stumbling. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? What? And he's so busy watching me act that he's not paying attention. So now I'm really pissed. So we run through all that, we get through all the stuff till we finally get to the diner scene, and I rock the diner scene out. And when I look up, like, you know, the casting director's crying, and Quentin's like shaking his head, and Lawrence is like that. And I slam the door and leave, and go get on a plane, come back to New York to go to work. And Lawrence comes back the next day and goes, so, everything's cool. You got the job. I just got to tell you, man, you know, it's like, that was such a revelation, because we've been struggling with the end of this movie, and we never knew how this movie ended until you read that speech. Now we got it. I'm like, okay. But it didn't make me feel any better about having to jump through that hoop, but it's one of those lessons that you can never not do all the things that you did before to get you where you got.
Right.
So I know now that when I get a script and it's time for me to figure out who the character is, I gotta sit down, I gotta do all those things I gotta do, because you never know from moment to moment. They may change their mind and call you in to do some shit that's like, well, what do you mean? Because, well,
did it help that the movie killed, that you got an Academy Award nomination for it? Did that take a little
take away
bit
some
of
of the sting? No, not at all. No, I mean, I still think about that, because once I forget that and I relax, then something bad happens, because that's what happens. I should have known, though, because one of the early things that happened to me when I got here, I remember in 1980, I had an interview for Ragtime, which I ended up being up in. And I was sitting there, and James Earl Jones came in. Now, I remember reading the book, and I read the script, and there was a part for Booker T. Washington. So I figured, well, James Earl Jones is here because he's going to play Booker T. Washington. He was the preeminent black actor on the planet at the time.
Plus, he's got the voice of God thing
Yeah,
going,
and I'm
which
sitting
works
there
pretty
like,
good.
wow, James Earl Jones, this is so cool. I'm sitting here. So I said, hey, Mr. Jones, my name's Sam Jackson. I'm here to interview for one of the gang members. It's going to be great working with you, you know, in the movie. He goes, I'm here for an interview. I was like, no, you're James Earl Jones. You're not here for an interview. You're here because they're going to put you in the movie. He's like, I'm here for an interview, just like you. So that was the first lesson. It's like, okay, no matter how big I get, you know, I may have to come, I'll do interviews, I'll do this stuff. And it's happened over and over and over and over again, only because I insist when I talk to my agents and my managers that they just send me scripts. Don't send me something that says black, you know, just send me a script. And I'll read it, I'll determine if there's somebody in it I want to be. And that's happened any number of times that I've said, well, I want to be in this movie, I want to meet these people. And I do, I have to go in and I have to meet them, and I have to interview with them, I have to talk to them about the film, what I think the character is, and what his relationships are with the other people, and how race is not a dynamic that will change what's happening in the film.
Well, given that you've been in 100 movies, and you've read all these scripts.
Or so, yeah.
Yeah, give or take. What is it that, I mean, what is it in a script that really works? Can you get 4 pages in and go, that's never gonna happen, or?
No, not necessarily 4 pages. I can get 15 pages in and go, I don't want to be in this movie. And I can get 15 pages in and know what's happening on page 30, what's happening after page 40, or what's happening on page 70. Only because, you know, people write by formula, or, you know, there's a film school thing that people teach, and people do it. I don't know what makes a script unique or what attracts people to it, because everybody has different tastes. This is the one thing I know. I do some movies because it's the kind of movie I would have gone to see when I was a kid,
right.
Like Snakes on a Plane. And I do some movies because I have a genre thing in my head that I always wanted to be in a specific kind of movie. And I go, oh, this is that movie I've been looking for. And I'll, you know, find something in there that I want to do. But I still like a good story. I think good stories are hard to beat. That if you tell a good story and you excite people or grab their interest or pull at them in a specific kind of way, then they'll come see it. And I like that.
Can you think of a movie where everyone killed it, it was a great story, you're totally proud of the work that you did in it, and it was crickets, nobody went and saw it?
187.
Okay. Tell us about
187 is like that. Well, 187, you know, suffered a sort of strange fate, because it's a great movie about teachers and difficulties that teachers have in schools, where I actually played a New York school teacher who got stabbed here in New York, and he moved to California because he couldn't take going to school in New York, thinking it was going to be easier out there, and then he gets to California and runs into these gang members in his classroom, and he becomes sort of a vigilante of sorts that starts kind of taking these little gang kids out that were bothering him or harassing him in class, to the point where he ends up playing like this huge Russian roulette game with these kids at the end of the movie. Kind of crazy. But it was made by Icon, Mel Gibson's company at the time. And it just so happened when they got ready to release the movie that somebody at the studio that was releasing the film had a son who was a school teacher here in New York, who had a relationship with a student that had loaned him his bank card, and the kid went to the bank, came back to the apartment, and killed him.
Right, I remember.
So all of a sudden, it was like, okay, we can't publicize this film because it seems like we're playing on the death of the studio exec's kids, so they kind of pushed it out of the way. And that's part of what happened to that film. Black Snake Moan, another film I did with Christina Ricci. The regime at Paramount changed. The people that made that film all got fired. And the people and the people that came in made Babel. Right. So Babel got uplifted and Black Snake Moan got pushed to the side. It's just politics, you know. But people find those movies though.
It's so hard to make a movie, right? Yeah. Years and years, and all the money coming together. And as you point out, a movie emerges from the space between people. Everybody's got to kill it. Everybody's got to do a good job.
Yeah, I mean, Christina should have been nominated for an Oscar. She did such brave work in that film.
Right, and then somebody dies or somebody switches out. You're out.
Yeah, you're out. And another movie gets pushed and the other movie gets pushed to the side. But that's the politics of filmmaking. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, you mentioned snakes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. You mentioned snakes on a plane. Mm-hmm. Or snakes on a bleeping plane, as I call it. Mm-hmm. You know we're not going to let you out of here without doing little snakes on a plane. We got to. I mean, you heard the title of the movie and said, yeah, I'll make that movie, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was...
Yeah, I read it. I was reading the trades and I saw in there Ronnie Yu to direct Snakes on a Plane. Now, Ronnie and I were friends because Ronnie directed Formula 51. Right. This film that I did in Liverpool with Robert Carlyle. Just actually another great film that kind of goes under people's radar, only because it's British humor. And people, they think Americans wouldn't get it, so the studio kind of backed away from that too. But Ronnie was directing the film, so I called Ronnie and asked him if he was directing a movie, really directed a movie called Snakes on a Plane. He's like, well, yeah. I said, and is it snakes on a plane? He's like, yeah, poisonous snakes loose on a plane. I was like, I'm in. And so he calls New Line and tells them Sam Jackson wants to do the movie. And they're like, great, this is awesome. And somewhere along the line, Ronnie got fired. Right. And New Line said, well, Ronnie's gone, but you still want to do the movie? I said, is it still Snakes on a Plane? They're like, yeah. Said, I'm down, let's do it. And then, I get there, I get to Vancouver, and all of a sudden it's Pacific Flight 121. I'm like, what the hell is this? I was like, well, we don't want to give it away. Said, yes, you do. What else would you do? Snakes on a Plane will either get people in the movie or out of the movie. Pacific Flight 121 is going to keep everybody out of the movie. So it's either Snakes on a Plane or I'm gone, So they changed it back to Snakes on a Plane.
It's not because you like snakes that you want to make this movie.
No, I killed plenty of snakes when I was a kid, but I never, was a great snake handler. We had a room full of snakes. But, my agent, Tony, told him, no snakes within 20 feet of Sam.
I saw that.
Ever. So I handled more snakes during the press tour than I handled the whole time we shot the movie. I mean, I had snakes draped all over me and in my pockets and everywhere when we did the Entertainment Weekly shoot. There was snakes just everywhere. Just dumped a bucket of snakes on me. It was okay.
The Snake Man. Let's see a little bit of the movie.
Take this tight to cockpit door. Let's go.
oxygen. You gotta get us down as fast as you can.
All right, everybody, make sure you're strapped in as securely as possible. Remember, it's going to be loud and it's going to be cold. Hold your breath as long as you can, all right? And protect your head. Use your arms. Is everybody ready? Ready to do this? Let's do it. All right, take the position. 1, 2, 3. That wasn't a good wife in that, was it? Wow. She kind of denies the existence of that role. The things you do to get where you are.
That is so mean. What I always wonder, when I watched this movie, I rewatched it, and there are like snakes every frickin' where in this movie. And I think to myself, what do snakes do when you yell cut? Where do they go?
Back to CGI land.
But some of them are real.
They had real snakes on second unit.
Right.
So they had snakes doing stuff, like they had this albino cobra that was striking the seats that we would watch on the monitors that was like
That's about as close as I want to get.
But we had a room full of snakes. I mean, we had a room full of, there were about, I don't know, maybe 3,000, 4,000 snakes in that room. But
did you ever go in there and march around, show how down you were?
Yeah, I just walked around in there because they had them in stuff. You know, they would look at you. But we had this one big tank. There was one big tank full of like corn snakes. That when they first started, there were maybe 150 snakes or so in there. But by the time the movie was over, there was like 600 snakes in it. It was just breeding. It was great. Ugh. It was just a big writhing mass of snakes. They're actually okay though. You pick them up. I mean, you get used to it.
I'll leave that to you. I'll trust you on that. I'm not.
Well, that boa that's in the movie, or well, the anaconda is real because it took like 8 people to bring this thing in. It was like a big, you know, like a 16-foot
I'm an anaconda wrangler.
It was a 16-foot anaconda. It was like that. It was gigantic.
We're going to be going to questions in a little bit. So if any of you guys start thinking about your snake handling questions, your Mac Royale questions, we'll delve back into history. There's 80 other movies to pick from. Did you ever walk onto a movie set? You've read the script, you've met everybody. You walk on, and you just realize every minute of this is going to suck, and the movie's going to be terrible. You just know it. Just smell it right when you walk in. The stench of death.
Yeah.
We're sort of looking for proper names here, though. Any movies that...
No, nobody's seen it.
Nobody?
I doubt if anybody's really seen it.
We couldn't dial it up on Netflix if we were going to have a...
little movie called No Good Deed.
Really?
Yeah, there's some interesting people in it. You know, Stellan Skarsgård's in it. This dude, Doug Hutchinson, is that his name? Is that the dude that like married the 14-year-old girl last week or 2 weeks ago? Yeah.
I've been keeping up on my TMZ, so I couldn't
Doug's
say.
in it. Mila Jovovich.
Wow.
It just
didn't gel.
No, it just didn't happen. It didn't happen. I mean, there's some other movies that that people love that I had horrific experiences making.
This
and
is really
people
juicy.
say all the time, I really love that movie, and I go, yeah, great.
I've wiped it out of my entire brain pan because I was so traumatized by making it.
Yeah, you know, if I hear that director's name, it's like I run screaming from the room, you know. So. But
I did hear you say earlier that, you know, you talk to most actors and say, you know, making movies is so boring. You just sit around and you know, and they act like, you know, look, dude, you're not hammering cement.
No, hell no.
Like, you're sitting in your trailer.
Yeah, it's not like
eating a bagel, waiting for your scene.
Can I supersize that for you?
Yeah.
No, it's a great job. They pay us to wait. They don't pay us to work, and that's what they say. And that's kind of true. I mean, you know, movie days are 12, 16 hours, and out of a 12 to 16 hour day, maybe I work 2 hours, maybe.
Right.
But you know, I stay caught up on Judge Judy and Judge Joe Brown, Judge Milian. I got all the judge shows down. I watch a lot of TV. I watch a lot of TiVo, of the shows that are on at night. I watch tons and tons and tons of Asian film because I collect like Chinese, Korean, Thai, Japanese films. So I watch tons and tons of DVDs in my trailer all the time.
Do you need the subtitles, or you can just watch them?
I need the subtitles. I haven't learned the language yet. Yeah, but I love watching them. You know, there's some movies I watch maybe, I watch Old Boy like 4 times a year. Yeah, stuff like that. And I watch Azumi maybe 6, 7 times a year because I like just seeing people getting chopped up. I find new films. I just go and buy films all the time, and I leave them in the shrink wrap until I get on location. And I just reach in the box, tear it open, stick it in without even reading the title, just so I'm watching something new. So I've learned how to use my time in a trailer. And you know, we got great trailers. I don't know why, you know, actors are whining.
They're not prison cells.
Yeah, that's like they're crazy. You know, it's kind of stupid to bitch about this job. It's a great job. You get paid a lot of money to do nothing, you know? And then, you know, they turn around and complain about watching themselves. Oh, I can't watch myself. I haven't watched myself on screen. If you can't watch yourself, why the hell you think somebody want to pay $12.50 to watch it? Yeah. I watch one of my films in a heartbeat, you know? Even the ones I don't like.
And what I always loved, I covered the Oscars for several years, and people are getting in, talking about the courage of a certain performance. So courageous that he chose to go there. He did a scene in a movie, and then he went back to his trailer and ate whatever he wanted. Got paid tall money while he did it.
And got somebody else to go get that food for him.
Yes, he did. Were you waiting to ask a question? Go ahead, sir. Thank you for your patience.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about working on the Avengers and working with Joss Whedon.
No, I can't, because he'll kill me.
Maybe something that you can talk about. Or just working with him.
Let me see. We did most of our work in Albuquerque on the studios there. You've seen the trailer. It's kind of dope being there with all the superheroes and everybody there for a change. It was really great to actually be part of a whole movie and not just the end of it, because the majority of them I hadn't even seen before I, showed up and did my connector lines that would lead you to the next movie or the next character or whatever. Joss was great because he has a great sensibility about comics and comic books and that sort of film. He's really adamant about what he wrote. So say what I wrote and maybe I'll let you add something to it later. But say what I wrote first. Let me hear that about 9 times and then we'll figure out whether you like yours. But I like Joss a lot. Joss is very, 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 very cool to work with. I think the movie's gonna be exciting. I hope it is. I know the parts I was in were pretty exciting for me.
Of course.
I had a great time. I finally get to do something. It's kind of like being Mace Windu in episode 1. I was patient. Now I get to, jack people up. I'm having fun doing that. People get a chance to see me actually, Nick Fury can kick some ass. So that's great. So I get to do that.
Are you doing another movie with Quentin now?
I'm doing a movie with Quentin in January, February, March. Django Unchained.
Yes.
Yes. I go from being Martin Luther King, the most beloved black man on the planet, to playing a character named Steven, who will be the most hated cinematic nigga in history. But I'm waiting. I'm looking forward to that. Really looking forward to that. The quintessential house nigger. Yes. Stephen.
Well, you certainly have a lot of range, apparently. Young lady, you've been waiting very patiently. I see you. I'm looking right at you.
Yeah, the one at the mic, not the one not close to it.
Hi, Sam.
Hey.
I'm an acting teacher, and I wish all my students could have seen the telephone conversation in the second half of Mountaintop.
Oh, thank you.
Brilliant. I would like to be able to tell them that, yes, even Mace Windu does his warm-ups before he goes on to stage every night. They're curious, so please tell me you do something centering.
Do I do vocal warm-ups before I do the play every night?
Yeah, do you?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yes.
Great.
Lots of and lots of lots of that. Yes, there's lots of stuff that goes on. Neck rolls and gaga. Corner, center. Lots of that. So yes, we do vocal warm-ups.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, Sam. Jamie Summers. Nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. I'm even finer now that I'm talking to you. But so you've broken a lot of barriers in your career, and they always say the first one through the glass collects a lot of shards. How did you deal with the pushback from the non-believers when you were rising up in your career?
Pushback from the non-believers. I don't know who they are. Hearing no is just part of this process. I never took it personally. I always felt sorry for people that didn't hire me because I didn't think they were smart enough anyway, so I probably didn't need to work for them. But I understood that, hearing no is just part of what we do. But like I told my agent, if you send me out 5 times a week, I'm going to book 3 jobs. That's what I do. I know that. I know that about myself. I never thought about non-believers, but you know what happens? Like I said, desperation smells when you come in a room. So I was never really desperate for a job, but I was very confident about who I was and what I was doing. So I would come into auditions and I would look at who was there and I'd go like, okay, so y'all know what's gonna happen, right? Because they knew me too. And then I go in, I come out of the room and say, okay, you can go now. And sometimes people would leave. So I'd eliminate the competition. But it wasn't until I stopped thinking about what all this is or what it could be or getting to whatever that, something made sense to me. That I was more concerned about the work, more concerned about character development and what I did and what the feedback was I got from audiences and directors, that any of this started to make sense. So you can't worry about what people say. You got to be confident. Even though, watch yourself or find some way to see yourself. Because, sometimes most of the people that were really, 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 really confident around me really couldn't act. So check yourself.
I wonder, you raised mostly by your mom?
Yeah.
Yes. Not a ton of money around?
No.
No. Segregated schools. So not exactly a cakewalk, but you never were lacking for confidence in sort of self. And so where'd that come from, or who helped you with that? Or?
Well, I'm the only child, so I spent a lot of time, by myself and in my own head and in books. I read a lot. I learned to read really, really early. I think I started reading for real when I was like 4. So I read a lot, and I read a lot of comic books, but my mom had this rule: for every 4 comic books I read, I had to read a classic. So I read a lot of classics, I read a lot of comic books, and I watched a lot of television when we finally could afford one. And we didn't have but 4 channels, but I watched things about the world. I watched all kinds of travel stuff. I watched geography stuff. I watched all those Disney nature things, and I read nature books, and
But
this
when
other
you
stuff.
watched all that, you didn't see a version of you in terms of television.
Well,
I mean,
no, I didn't see a version of me anywhere. But you know, I thought I was Errol Flynn. You know,
okay.
Really, you know, when I went to the movies, I spent a lot of time going to the movies too. On Saturdays, I spent the whole day in the movies because they had this cartoon series we would watch in the morning, and then they had this Lay's potato chips had this thing where you could get in the movies for potato chip bags, and they had auctions. So kids ate a lot of potato chips because you could buy bicycles and cameras and transistor radios and stuff with potato chip bags if you had enough of them. So we would stay there for that, and then we would watch the serialized westerns, and then we would watch the double feature horror, whatever was on during the afternoon, or action movie, and then they showed grown-up films like Two Women or some Fellini or something, you know, and my mom would come and I would go back to the movies with her and be in there until like 8 o'clock at night. So I was in movies all day on Saturday. So I fantasized and made up, you know, stuff that was going on with me. And I was always a storyteller. My grandfather told me stories. We would sit on the porch at night and he would make up stories and tell me stories, either scare me or make me laugh. And I learned to do that too, and I would do that to my friends. I would tell stories to all the kids in the neighborhood. So I was performing for a very long time. And my aunt, who was a 4th grade teacher, was there in the house with us for a while when my mom still lived in Washington. I was with my grandparents and my aunt. And she was a 4th grade teacher who also did performing arts. She was a dancer. So whenever they had plays and pageants, she was the director. And she never had enough boys, and I lived in the house with her. So from the time I was 2, she put me in stuff. So I was the Sugar Plum Fairy, and I had pumpkin costumes on, and I was Humpty Dumpty in an egg suit. So,
like I said, you had a lot of range from an early age.
Yeah, so I did a lot of stuff. Performing, and she made me take tap dance with the little girls who came to the house that she taught dance to, and I danced to Ema Sumac when she was doing modern dancing, and so I did a lot of crazy stuff for a little black kid in the South. That
I'm having trouble picturing this.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, but it happened. But it was great. She actually came here from L.A. last week, and she saw me in the play. It was the first time she'd seen me perform on stage as an adult, so it was great.
She got to see a magnificent role. Please.
Good evening. Hi, Sam. How are you? You were brilliant in The Mountaintop, and I personally think that you're one of the greatest actors of all time. You're up there with them all, really precisely because of the range and all of the different characters and the roles that you do. You really transform yourself in these various roles. But I want to ask you, well, not specifically about, but you did Rules of Engagement with Tommy Lee Jones, and I hear that you're working on a legal drama for CBS that sounds really interesting. I'm an attorney, and you know, and I like the legal dramas, like you mentioned, The Good Wife, and you know, that sort of thing. And then before you go into that, I just have one other thing I have to tell you, that Joe, who works uptown in a coffee shop, but he used to drive a hearse, and he drove the hearse for your cousin's funeral. He told me to tell you hello if I had the chance to speak to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I have a television deal at CBS, so I develop television shows, and that legal drama happens to be one of the things that I sold to them this season. Basically about a guy who was ousted from his corporate law job because they needed a fall guy for this big deal falling through, so they kick him out. And he ends up kind of going to work for his dad, who's like one of those very famous criminal defense lawyers who will defend anybody, but his dad has currently been disbarred, so he uses his dad's influence to become a trial lawyer, and now his dad can actually kind of go to court and mess with jurors and do stuff and be an expert witness. And his dad's the kind of guy who like sues people for spilling coffee on him so he can keep going to court because he can't do stuff now. But you know, it's just a silly little law show that CBS kind of likes to put on. You know, they like law shows, doctor shows.
Are you going to be in it?
No.
You'll make some appearances, though.
I can't work for TV now. I can't work for network yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I also sold the show to cable, but that's another story too. So.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Sam.
Hey.
I really liked your role in Jungle Fever. it helped me stay off the wrong track when I was a younger person.
Oh, well, good.
So my question is about Spike Lee. If you could tell us about your impression of Spike, working with him, and if you'll work with him again.
Wow. Well, I know Spike. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? You know something? What am I gonna say? What do you think I'm gonna say? Okay. I've known Spike for a long time. I didn't know him at Morehouse. I met him when I was here working at a Negro Ensemble Company. I was in the original company of A Soldier's Play. And Spike came to see the show and told me he was a Morehouse student, he was at NYU, and he was going to be a big director, and we talked. And then he did his first film when I wasn't in it. Then he called me, and I did School Days, and I did Jungle Fever. School Days, Do the Right Thing, Mo Better Blues, Jungle Fever. And then we had a small falling out when they did Malcolm X, but I went on to do White Sands, and he went on to do Malcolm X, and I kept moving, and Spike kept moving. And we're cool. He's shooting a movie right now, something about Mike Tyson, and as I understand it, he's on the books to do the remake of Old Boy. I don't even know that Old Boy needs to be remade, but that's a whole nother story. You know, I'd like to work with Spike again. I mean, I think Spike has grown as a filmmaker. I've certainly grown as an actor during that time. Hopefully, you know, that day will come. But until it comes, I just keep going to work.
Those movies are all in my DVD library, by the way.
Thank you.
Wait, I'm going to kill myself if I don't ask. What does the L stand for?
My middle name.
I know, which is what?
Leroy.
Samuel Leroy. Because these guys all call you Sam, right? Everyone who's coming up to the mic.
You know what? It's funny. They're doing that now, but when I'm on the street, or even when I'm driving down the street in LA, I see people look in the car and they go, wow, Samuel Jackson. They always say my whole name, you know. Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson. Oh, they go, oh, Samuel L. Jackson. So yeah, Sam is good though.
Okay. Would you like to speak to Samuel L. Jackson?
Yes, hi Sam, how you doing?
I'm good.
I have two things I want to say actually. The question is, I just recently saw Mother and Child.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could speak on that briefly. Mm-hmm. And also because I wanted to ask you, because you are where I want to be one day.
In this shit right here?
No, professionally. I was wondering, I've been wanting to make a promise to you that we will work together one day.
All right.
And can we shake on it? Can we shake on it?
No, we're good with that. Yeah, I believe you. Right. You got to put it out there. Yeah, I hope so. Mother and Child, Rodrigo Garcia. I hope a lot of you, well, many of you saw that film. But if you haven't, you should go out and rent it. It's a really, really, really great film with Annette Bening and Kerry Washington and who? Oh, Naomi Watts, right. Damn, the woman I slept with.
Thank you, audience.
The woman I slept with in the movie. Yeah, Naomi Watts. Naomi Watts. A really, really wonderful movie that, wow, I was really perplexed last year why Annette didn't push that movie as hard as she pushed The Kids Are All Right. Because I think she's better in this movie than that movie. But Rodrigo writes great, great parts for women. It's a beautiful story about women and their children and adoption and giving up kids for adoption. I had a great time doing it. It's kind of a diversion for me in terms of what people are used to seeing me do. It's a very touching film to me. I'm really proud of the fact that I did it. And like I said, if you haven't seen it, please, you know, rent it, something, stream it, do something, because you'll be pleasantly surprised. But thanks for bringing that up. Look forward to seeing you on set.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is Eugene Marsh, Mr. Samuel L. Jackson. I'd like to share a brief moment because of what you brought about in terms of your introduction. On the day that Dr. King was assassinated on April 4th, 1968, I was stationed at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, en route to South Vietnam. I'd like for you to share with us about your trip to Memphis on the day that Dr. King was assassinated, about the men of color who wrote the sign, "I am a man." Can you explain that to us, please?
I can explain where I was in that particular time. Like I said, it just so happened that Robert Cope and Bill Cosby got this plane, and they took a group of us from Atlanta to Memphis to march with the sanitation workers. Wow, I used to have one of those "I am a man" signs. Somebody eventually stole it. Like, people always take things from you when you kind of neglect them in that way. But it was a very specific moment in time that made me feel like I was a part of something that was significant. The anger that everybody felt and the sadness at the same time at Dr. King's assassination was very palpable in the city. And us coming in as young people into a group of organized grown men who were still being treated like second and third class citizens didn't make us feel like we wanted to march peacefully, but we knew we had to, because that's what Dr. King wanted, and because that's what his memory deserved on that day, because the rioting didn't actually happen until like the next day when all this stuff happened. But I've always felt very honored to have been able to be there and to feel like I was part of a significant moment in time that honored the memory of somebody that kind of gave me a sense of closure in a way that I wouldn't have had before if I had stayed there in Atlanta and not gone to Memphis, or had I not gone to view the body the night before we went to Memphis, because we actually all did that. We went over, saw the body before we went and got on the plane. And it's not colored the way I look at the world, but it colors the way I look at that particular time in my life, in terms of I could have wasted it doing a lot of other things, but I didn't at that particular time, and I didn't mar the memory of someone that I didn't necessarily follow that closely at that time, because, like I said, I was more of an advocate of the armed struggle that was about to happen than I was peaceful coexistence and nonviolence. But I still think that it was the right thing to do, to not participate in the burning, the looting, the anger part of it. You know, it was almost like watching later on when Mr. Mandela comes out of prison, and you know, all those things that we thought were going to happen in South Africa did not happen, but it made the country a better place because it didn't.
One of the points I want to share with you, Mr. Samuel Jackson, is that the state of Tennessee commissioned a rendering of "I Am a Man" by an author by the name of George Hunt. And that rendering is "I Am a Man" is symbolic throughout the world, and I wanted to acknowledge that because of your presence in Memphis, Tennessee, but also what it alludes to in terms of representation of African American men in their struggle. And I want to say to you personally, thank you for what you all have done.
Thank you.
Okay. I think, go ahead.
Can I go to the bathroom?
No, we have one more minute and one more question. She is a fast talker.
I'll pee on myself.
You're right. How did you know that I was a fast talker?
All right.
Hi, nice to share this evening with you, Samuel L. Jackson.
Thank you.
When did you decide that you wanted to be an actor? And did you really want to be a film actor from the beginning? I mean, now you gave us that story about your aunt, putting you in all these plays and everything. So
when did I decide?
When you decided, and what was really like the first part that you played that you knew, oh my God, I've got to do this?
I think I've made the career decision my junior year in college when I was taking a public speaking course, and the guy offered us extra credit to do 3-penny opera. I did it, and I loved being on stage. I loved the French benefits. that it all came with that.
Of what do you speak, sir?
What do I speak? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Sounds wonderful.
Sex, drugs, and cheap thrills, actually. Yeah, I made the choice that year. Now, I was one of those people that was dumb enough to think that acting was like any other job. You know, you started at entry level. So theater was entry level to me. So I figured I'd do theater for a while, and then, you know, I'd get a commercial here and there, and then I'd get a soap job, you know, and then I'd get a TV job, and then I'd become an actor in the movies, because that's what people do. You start in the mailroom, and I had no idea, you know, until I started watching these people leapfrog me that shouldn't. Because, you know, back in the day, we had this thing about, first it was athletes, and then it was comedians. You know, they hired athletes, and then they hired comedians, and then all of a sudden they started hiring rappers, and then it was kind of like, what the hell's going on? What I gotta do? What I gotta do? So you don't know, but like they said, you know, the one thing, we can learn all the stuff we need to learn. You can be the greatest actor in the world. You can know stage left, stage right, upstage. You can know, look into the camera, how to do your close-up, how to cry on cue, all this stuff. But nobody can teach you to be in the right place at the right time.
There you go.
So you think you had a little bit of luck?
Yeah.
Good for you. Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up for Samuel L. Jackson. And if you have not, do yourself a favor and step out and see the mountaintop. It's an extraordinary bit of work, and it's a pleasure.
Please. Thank you all.